I've really been reigniting my love of JRPGs over the past few years, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope you will join me on this journey. Maybe grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, grab a blanket, and just hang out with me for a few minutes as we talk about JRPGs and that journey of falling in love with these incredible games. If you like talking about great games, please subscribe, and I read all of your comments. I would love to know from you guys, what are some of your favorite JRPGs that you've played throughout your history? So I finished my work this afternoon, and then it started to pour down rain, hitting the windows. You might even hear some of it here in the background. Hopefully it's not too loud. Here in Portugal, it just got crazy and cold and rainy, and I thought this is a perfect opportunity for me to sit down, get under a blanket, and start exploring Magna Forest in Xenoblade Chronicles. And I was just having a blast with this beautiful, peaceful music, and then my dog showed up and he started digging into his blankets, and I thought, wow, this is what I love about JRPGs, the exploration, the music, the characters, the narrative, the world building, all of those things. And I thought, wow, this is really bringing me back to my childhood. And I've had a lot of those thoughts over the past few weeks about JRPGs, so I did want to talk about and just kind of share some of that with you. And I have to say, one of the games that really reignited my passion for JRPGs is this game right here. I even got the special edition here of Fire Emblem Engage. And this was a game that my son and I picked up. I picked him up after school, and I knew that this was coming out. I'd never played a Fire Emblem game before. And he said, I've never heard of this. What is this? And he was 12 at the time, and we bought it. We bought the game, and we both started playing it and absolutely fell in love with the characters, with the protagonists being actual characters. I mean, a lot of times early RPGs and JRPGs, for me, at least in the West, had a lot of sort of empty protagonists, where I think the idea, in the West was, it's an empty vessel, and then you as the player, become that character. Like, we want you to be the hero, the person sitting there on the couch playing the game. And I don't want that. I want great characters that they've written. That's why I read books. That's why I go to movies. If it wasn't the case, then I would make my own movies, right? So I think with Fire Emblem, you get all of these rich characters, and this was the game, though, that really brought me back to that. And it was the relationships, it was the affinity that I had to build up between these different characters, it was the strategy, it was knowing that I could proceed in a linear path along the story, but I could also go on all of these side quests. I could decide to go over and do some scrimmages and build up my experience and build up my different points just by doing these side missions and going off and doing these exploration missions. And I love the confined space of the game, but I also loved all the ways in which I could build up my characters and interact. It seemed like an infinite number of ways, using the emblem rings and using all of these different things to bring those things together. So Fire Emblem Engage, no pun intended, really lit a fire under me for JRPGs again. And then I started thinking, well, I've got to buy some of the other Fire Emblem games. And then, oh boy, it turns out that I actually owned some on the 3DS that I never played before. I had some Fire Emblem games on the 3DS that I never played. Like, what in the world? I can't believe I never played these games. So now I have a whole world of Fire Emblem in front of me that I'm going to explore. Three Houses and all of these great games, going back to the GameCube era and exploring all of those. So I'm really excited about that. But over the past few days, as I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles, I've had a lot of nostalgia for growing up and playing JRPGs in the little room upstairs in my parents' house. And I'll never forget getting Dragon Warrior for the first time. And I don't know how I got the game, if I asked for the game, or how it showed up in my life, but here's my copy of Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest, of course, as it was called in Japan. But this game was my entry point, and this game changed my life. Maybe two changed my life. We'll get to there in a second. But I would sit in that room with that old CRT television, my brown carpet, and this little den room ended up becoming turned into a little TV room. As a child, my grandmother lived with us, and she lived across the hall. So this was like my little room, my bedroom. And then as I got older and she moved out, we turned this into a little TV room, and it was this perfect little den. And maybe that's why I've tried to transform this office here, my gaming space / office, into that kind of a space, into that sort of small, cozy den-like space. I don't need a big, expansive game room. I just want, I like it cozy. I like having my little salt lamps, and it kind of reminds me of like an inn or a little tavern that you might discover on your journey of, in a JRPG, or like a Bard's Tale, something like that. So I appreciate the coziness of it all. So I would sit in there in this little room in this really ugly, like 1970s kind of fluffy big chair, and play Dragon Warrior, and the music just took me to another place. And grinding, of course, many of these games back in the day so grindy, and having to build up your character. This was my first time realizing that, it didn't have to be a platformer. I didn't have to be jumping over things, Metroid style, Super Mario Brothers style. I could take my time. And I think that's what really connected me to JRPGs, that I could move at my own pace. And like today, I was playing Xenoblade, and I'm at a point right now where I have to battle some pretty big dudes. But I know that I'm not strong enough yet, and I have a bunch of side quests that are speaking to me right now. I want to go and help build this bridge in Machna Forest, and I want to go and help build Colony 6 up a little bit more, and kind of grind that area and build that city up as much as I can, and help those villagers out. So I have a whole bunch of side quests that I can go and do. And I thought, with the rain coming down, the coziness of it all, I'm just going to go explore Machna Forest. And again, my point is, I can move at my own pace. And that's what really appeals to me with these games. I get to choose my own destiny. I get to choose my groups and how they're going to come together. So for me, I think the game, I said Dragon Warrior kind of changed my life, but it was really Dragon Warrior 2. Because when this game came out, here's my original copy of Dragon Warrior 2. And I have 3. I'm so mad, I'm missing the box for Dragon Warrior 2. I'm gonna have to find it at some point. I'm gonna have to buy a copy and get the manual and all of that, because it holds such a special place in my heart. Let me just give you a little story here. So it was Christmas time. I asked for this for Christmas, and I knew where my parents worked with Santa, and had a special room where certain things were hidden. And I stayed home from school on a particular day. I wasn't feeling well. So my parents, it was the 80s, both parents worked, probably. So they went off to work. And that's where the term latchkey kid comes from, right? So I was at home while my parents were at work. And I kind of got up and I snuck up to this secret Santa spot where Santa would work with my parents and keep things, And I found the game. I found that it was in there, and of course, NES games, to my memory, didn't have any shrink wrap on it, at least from my memory. So I was able to open up the box. I was able to open up the box of Dragon Warrior 2, and I pulled out the manual, and I sat in this little attic space while I was supposed to be at school, and I wasn't feeling well, and I just sat there and studied the manual for Dragon Warrior 2. And I was just obsessed. I couldn't wait to play this game. And I still had weeks away from Christmas. I couldn't wait to play this game, and I was dreaming about it, and I was just studying the manual, and I think I stayed home another day from school, and then on the weekend I went back up there and was studying the manual some more. But when this game finally came out, oh my gosh, the idea that you could have a larger group with you, that you could get in a ship and you could travel the world. This was such a massive game that was just unbelievable to me. It took everything I loved about Dragon Warrior and then just put it on steroids. The world building, the music, the exploration, the team, choosing how you wanted to structure your team and build them up and gain experience. Just an unbelievable experience for me. And then Dragon Warrior 3, of course, and on and on and on with the Dragon Warrior series, Dragon Quest. Then, of course, Final Fantasy hit for me. And when I got my PlayStation, my parents had finally, I guess, I don't know if I saved up enough money or my parents bought me a small little CRT television for my bedroom when I became a teenager. And when I got my PlayStation 1 for Christmas, and then I got Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation. And this was an unbelievable experience for me, being in my own bedroom, sitting in one of those like Papasan chairs, you know, it looks like a giant contact lens. I would sit in there with my little CRT I think it was like this big. It was like a Sony television that had a VCR built into the bottom of it. And I had my PlayStation 1 connected to that little television and just would put a blanket over me, sit down after school or after all my sporting events were done, and I would just play Final Fantasy VII, and to, again, be transported to this amazing world and this amazing experience. Exploring this entire fantasy world was just really unbelievable to me. So I guess, you know, that's sort of a long way of saying that over the past few years, I've really reconnected to that feeling again of JRPGs. And what I've discovered is there's a whole bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of series of JRPGs that I never knew about, that missed me, totally skipped me by, and I'm excited to go explore that. Maybe I'll do a whole video if you guys are interested in that, on the JRPGs that I missed, that are not in my collection, and that I'm gonna seek out. So I do have a lot here in my backlog to get to, but right now I'm really enjoying the Xenoblade series. Almost done. Well, I'm about chapter 12 now in Xenoblade Chronicles, the definitive edition. I've got a bunch of other ones on my plate that I want to dig into. I know the grindiness of Octopath, so I want to get into the Octopath series soon. I'm probably going to go back and replay Final Fantasy VII so that I can dive in and play Final Fantasy Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Rebirth. Obviously, that is top of mind right now, given that Rebirth just came out. So those are some of the ones that are top of my list right now. I have a long list of JRPGs that I want to get into. So I just wanted to come in today and talk about some of my favorite JRPGs and my experiences with it, and hope you guys had a fun time hanging out for a few minutes and taking a break from your day. I'd love to hear your favorite JRPGs. Drop me a comment below, and if you like talking about these types of games and just having a relaxing time talking about our favorite hobby together, then please subscribe to the channel. That's what I do here, is just having a great time talking about games. No agenda at all. I just want to have fun, and it's great connecting with all of you guys, and we'll see you next time.